After my boyfriend, Baldwin Bell, went bankrupt, he was left with a massive debt. To pay it off, we both took on part-time jobs after our day jobs. One day, by chance, I received an urgent order to deliver some documents. When I arrived at the destination and the door opened, a girl appeared. She turned and called out her boyfriend's name. "Baldwin, your urgent documents are here." I thought it was just a coincidence of names. But then, the next second, I heard my boyfriend's voice from inside the house. "By the way, go get someone to buy a few more of these." The next moment, an empty box of Durex was thrown at the girl's feet. Baldwin was bankrupt. To help him clear his debts, I sold all the designer bags, clothes, and jewelry he had given me during our relationship. I even used all my savings to try and cover the shortfall, but still, we were over $800,000 in debt. Now, every day after work, we both continued to do part-time jobs. I worked as a courier, and he worked as a cab driver. Today, I took a job to retrieve a document from a company for the boss. The client was generous, offering to give me an extra $1,000 as a tip. The only requirement was that the delivery had to be fast. When I received the order, I was still waiting for a pancake from a street vendor. I was very hungry and had treated myself to a $12 pancake. However, as soon as I saw the client's message, I immediately hopped on my scooter and headed to the designated location. While waiting for the secretary to bring down the documents, I took a moment to share the good news with Baldwin. "Baldwin, I made over $1,000 today. You mentioned wanting to eat roasted pork ribs, right? I'll buy some ribs and cook them for you tomorrow." After sending the message, there was no reply, but I thought Baldwin must have picked up a passenger by then. To ensure his passenger's safety, he usually didn't reply to my messages while driving. It would only be after he was free that he would reply to my messages. This had become our unspoken agreement. I would just send him messages and wait for him to have the time to reply, providing me with emotional satisfaction. We never complained about the unfairness of fate. Even at our lowest, we simply held each other's hands, watching the slowly rising sun through the window, silently vowing to make a lot of money. The destination was quite far this time, but thinking of the generous tip, I felt fortunate to have grabbed this order. When I arrived at the villa complex, I was stopped by the security guard. He glanced at my scooter and declared loudly, "Outside vehicles are not allowed in the community." With the clock ticking on my delivery deadline, I sensed an underlying message in his words. I parked the scooter by the roadside, clutched the documents in my hand, and hurried into the villa area. I ran all the way to the destination, where a young girl opened the door. She was dressed in a white bathrobe, with a shower cap on her head, and wet strands of hair along with frantic kiss marks on her neck, revealing the recent events inside the villa. She stood on the steps, arms crossed and leaning against the door frame, emanating a pleasant fragrance of gardenia. Seemingly annoyed at being interrupted, she asked impatiently, "Yes? What's the matter?" I handed her the documents. "Hello, here are your documents." She took the documents with a puzzled look, but after scanning the contents, her expression cleared. She casually flipped through the documents in the folder. "These are my boyfriend's documents." After handing her the documents, I was about to leave when she called out her boyfriend's name into the house. "Baldwin, your urgent documents are here." A voice quickly responded from inside. "Bring them in for me. They're quite important for a meeting later." "I'll take a shower first." The voice froze me in my tracks. It was all too familiar, so much so that I could almost picture the expression of the person speaking. Before I could react, a box was thrown out from inside. Baldwin's voice came again from inside the house. "Oh, by the way, get someone to buy a few more of these." The empty box rolled on the ground and stopped at the girl's feet. She bent down to pick it up and then tossed the box at me. "Please buy a few more of these for us. We need them urgently. I'm allergic to silicone. Make sure to get the hyaluronic acid ones. When you come back with them, I'll add $2,000 to your tip." I stiffly bowed my head, saw the bold letters Durex on the box, and felt a tightness in my throat, breathing as if forcibly restrained. It was 2:30 a.m. when Baldwin Bell returned to the rental house. I sat down on the floor and tended to the wound on my leg. I didn't even look up when I heard the commotion coming from the foyer. Baldwin Bell didn't seem to think why I was up so late. "Still not sleeping? Just in time. The other day you said you wanted to eat crayfish. Today I bought 2 pounds back." He walked over to me and set the crawfish in his hand aside. My eyes seemed a little flustered when they touched the cuts on my knees and arms. "You're hurt? What happened?" My tone was calm. "I accidentally dropped it while delivering a list today." He took out a new cotton swab and sprayed some iodophor onto it before carefully cleaning my wound. When I got a little closer to him, I could smell the fresh scent of his body wash, exactly the same as the scent on the woman who opened the door today. After a day's work on the construction site and a part-time job as a dropshipping driver at night, it's amazing that you don't even have the slightest odor of sweat on you. He is now, surprisingly, even so negligent in his disguise. Does he think I'm too easy to fool, or does he just not care to pretend in front of me? After I left the villa area, I was followed by a couple of sports cars that just looked like they cost a fortune. Those two biters sat in the car and made several malicious aliases. They seemed to make fun of it, watching me fall to the ground in a heap before laughing and leaving. Their conversation, of course, reached me word for word. "Baldwin Bell will be pissed off if we do this, right? You're overthinking it, aren't you? How could you be mad at us because of this woman? What is Baldwin Bell? How can you possibly like her? Besides, Joanne Bentham is all the way back home, and sooner or later Baldwin Bell is going to have to break it off with her. There Their car was fading away, but their voices were unmistakable to me, as if they had a megaphone placed around them. A stabbing pain in my knee pulls my thoughts back. I looked into Baldwin Bell's eyes, trying to find in them the guilt, the heartbreak of having cheated someone. Baldwin Bell tossed the swabs into the trash can, as if my words were just too few tonight, and he looked up quizzically. "What's wrong with you tonight? Why don't you talk at all?" He came up to me, only now realizing that my face was streaked with tears. Tears fell down my cheeks and dripped onto the back of his hand. His eyes landed straight on my face, and he was obviously a bit overwhelmed, so he could only take me into his arms. "What's wrong with you? Why are you crying? Did you get a hard time from the list owner when you delivered the list today? Or is it because I'm back late tonight?" I had just calmed down, but it came tumbling back. He gently wiped away my tears. "Neither? Then what is it?" Baldwin Bell couldn't ask why, and was as anxious as a hot potato. I sniffled and tried to pull a smile. "Nothing, it's just that the wound hurts so much." He wiped my tears and asked with a half-hearted frown, "Really?" I nodded. I was still going to give him a chance to come clean while he peeled my crawfish on the side. "Baldwin Bell, do you have anything to say to me?" I held my breath, trying to hear something out of his mouth. Instead, he shook his head. "We spend every day together. Surely we've said all we can say." Looking at him without the slightest inclination to confess, I just felt like I was on ice. If I don't grab that order tonight, how long will I be in the dark? But in the end, I wasn't able to say the questions that had been brewing all night. I don't know how I'm supposed to talk, how I'm supposed to question it. A 3-year relationship is not a year, not a month, not a day. When I woke up the next day, Baldwin Bell had made breakfast. He picked up the keys that were sitting on the table and dropped a kiss on my cheek as usual. "I'm going to work," I called out to him as he was getting ready to go out the door. "Baldwin Bell." He turned to look at me. "Are you free tonight? I'd like to talk to you." He hesitated a bit, but finally nodded. As the door slammed shut, the house was once again quiet. This calm is like a silent beast that keeps devouring my love for Baldwin Bell. I know he's not available tonight. Last night, while he was in the bathroom taking a shower, I looked at his cell phone. Tonight, it's the semi-annual gathering of their upper-class circle. The organizer was Joanne Bentham, who was unlikely to be absent.